Are you quick to anger, easily hurt, or often regretful after acting impulsively? Discover how to apply 12 Stoic principles so you'll never again be a slave to your emotions. In today's fast-paced world, we often live as emotional puppets, shaken by every feeling that arises without warning. While we've been taught math, history, and science, no one taught us perhaps the most crucial skill: distinguishing between experiencing an emotion and becoming that emotion. This is precisely where Stoicism, a philosophy over 2 millennia old, offers remarkably effective tools for navigating the chaos of modern life. The Stoic advantage. Stoicism doesn't aim to eliminate our emotions. That would be both impossible and undesirable. Instead, it offers a path to transform our relationship with them, converting emotional chaos into mental clarity. This isn't abstract philosophy for academics, but practical wisdom forged in life's trenches. Marcus Aurelius applied these principles while ruling the Roman Empire amid wars and pandemics. Epictetus developed them after living as a slave with a permanent physical disability. If these principles worked under such extreme circumstances, imagine what they can do for your everyday challenges. 1. Observing without attachment. Stoics developed what we might call the internal observer, a part of consciousness that can step back and watch our reactions without fully identifying with them. This practice doesn't mean suppressing or denying emotions, but witnessing them with curiosity. When feeling anxious, you might notice there is anxiety present rather than I am anxious, a subtle but powerful distinction that creates mental space and returns your power of choice. Modern neuroscience confirms this practice activates brain regions associated with emotional regulation. It's like learning to surf emotional waves instead of being dragged by the current. 2. The dichotomy of control. Things under our control are surprisingly few: our judgments, decisions, values, and responses. Everything else, from weather to others' opinions, lies outside our direct control. Anxiety, frustration, and anger arise when we try to control the uncontrollable. Some things depend on us and others don't. What depends on us are our opinions, impulses, desires, and aversions. In a word, everything that's our business. What doesn't depend on us are the body, property, reputation, public positions. In a word, everything that's not our business. Imagine heading to an important meeting. You can control your preparation and punctuality. You cannot control traffic or whether technology will work perfectly. Focusing on the former while accepting the latter is key to maintaining calm and effectiveness. 3. The separation between impressions and judgments. What disturbs people are not things, but their judgments about things. When someone criticizes you, 2 separate events occur. First, words come out of another person's mouth. Second, you interpret those words as a personal attack. The first event is neutral. The second is a creation of your mind. This distinction isn't mere theory, it's the door to emotional freedom. Practice this today. When feeling an intense emotion, stop and ask yourself, what's really happening here, and what part am I adding myself? 4. The value filter. External events don't determine our emotional experience. The value we assign to them does. The same situation, losing a job, ending a relationship, can be interpreted as a catastrophe or a growth opportunity. Epictetus emphasized that people aren't disturbed by things themselves, but by their view of them. The key is recognizing that our automatic valuations are often distorted by unrealistic expectations and limiting beliefs. To apply this principle, start noticing the words you use in your internal dialogue. Terms like terrible, disastrous, unbearable, or impossible usually indicate exaggerated automatic valuations. Replace them with more objective and proportionate descriptions. 5. Embracing fate. Amor fati, loving fate, represents one of Stoicism's most transformative principles. It's not simply about accepting what happens, but actively embracing every event as necessary for our development. Marcus Aurelius expressed this attitude when writing about how obstacles in our path become the path itself. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the Amor Fati practitioner asks, What can I learn from this? How can this experience strengthen me? Epictetus, who had been a slave and suffered physical disability, taught that events don't harm us. Our resistance to them does. By fully embracing what occurs, even the painful, we eliminate the additional suffering that comes from fighting reality. To cultivate amor fati, begin each morning consciously accepting that you'll face obstacles during the day and affirming your willingness to receive them not as unwanted intruders, but as necessary teachers. 6. The mortal perspective. Stoics regularly practiced contemplating death, not as a morbid exercise, but as a powerful tool for clarifying priorities and dissolving trivial concerns. Think frequently on the brevity of life, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself. This practice, known as memento mori, remember that you will die, works as a clarifying lens to distinguish what's truly important from what's merely urgent. When we contemplate our mortality, many situations that normally provoke intense reactions, a minor dispute, a passing criticism, reveal themselves in their true dimension, passing incidents that will hardly matter in the context of a complete life. A practical approach. When facing an emotionally charged situation, ask yourself, will this matter on my deathbed? Will I even remember this incident in 5 years? 7. The practice of voluntary austerity. Much of our emotional suffering comes from attachment to comforts we believe we need to be happy. To counter this dependence, Stoics practiced what Seneca called training for poverty, intentional periods of simplification. This practice didn't arise from a belief in the moral value of deprivation, but from the practical recognition that we become emotionally dependent on what we grow accustomed to. Voluntary austerity teaches us that we can be fine, even thrive, with much less than we think we need. In practice, this might mean fasting for a day, spending a weekend without technology, or sleeping on the floor for one night. What matters isn't the deprivation itself, but the psychological freedom gained by proving your well-being doesn't depend on those comforts. In our consumer society, where we're constantly told we need more to be happy, this practice is revolutionary. It demonstrates, through direct experience, that our capacity for satisfaction is internal, not dependent on ideal external circumstances. 8. The cosmic perspective. Stoics practiced the view from above, a mental exercise where one imagines rising and contemplating life from an increasingly broader perspective. Marcus Aurelius suggested first imagining the entire city from above, then the continent, then Earth, and finally the infinite cosmos. From that perspective, our everyday problems reveal themselves as surprisingly small. Consider how much a criticism or rejection affects us emotionally. From the cosmic perspective, we see these incidents for what they truly are. Tiny events in an individual life, which is itself a brief moment in human history, which is barely an instant in cosmic history. The cosmic perspective is a powerful tool for freeing ourselves from the tyranny of the urgent and reconnecting with what's truly important. 9. Voluntary adversity, preparation. Stoics practiced a mental exercise called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversities, which involved visualizing possible difficulties in advance. Contrary to what one might think, this practice doesn't seek to generate anxiety, but to prepare the mind to face challenges with equanimity when they actually occur. As Seneca noted, the blow that's seen coming hurts less. Premeditation works like a psychological vaccine. By imagining difficult scenarios, a rejection, financial loss, conflict, and visualizing how we would respond virtuously, we create mental resources that will be available when facing similar situations in reality. Marcus Aurelius practiced this technique every morning, reminding himself, "Today, I will encounter ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, envious, and antisocial people." He didn't do this to become cynical, but to remove the surprise element that intensifies our negative reactions. Modern psychology has validated this ancient practice under names like stress inoculation. Research shows that those who visualize in advance how they'll handle difficult situations experience less anxiety and respond more effectively when these situations actually occur. To implement this practice, spend 5 minutes each morning visualizing 1 or 2 likely challenges of the day, asking yourself, what could go wrong today? How would I ideally respond if that happened? 10. The discipline of assent. Stoics identified a crucial human capacity they called the discipline of assent, our ability to accept or reject the automatic impressions that arise in our mind. Epictetus taught that between external stimulus and our response exists a crucial moment of choice, where we can give or withhold our assent to the initial interpretation. This ability to question our first impressions before accepting them is fundamental to emotional mastery. If someone criticizes us, our automatic impression might be, they're unfairly attacking me, and I must defend myself. The discipline of assent allows us to pause and question, is it really an attack? Does it contain some truth? Do I really need to defend myself? Regularly practice this questioning. Am I sure this is so, or is this just my habitual interpretation? This simple act of doubting our automatic interpretations creates the necessary space for wiser responses. Immediate emotional reactions are processed through faster but less sophisticated brain pathways. By introducing a deliberate pause, we allow the higher brain centers to evaluate the situation. 11. The reflective journal. Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations not for publication, but as a personal exercise in mental clarification. The practice of the Stoic journal doesn't simply involve recording events, but examining our responses to them. What disturbed me today? Why did I react that way? What virtues do I need to develop? This type of reflection has several powerful effects. It creates distance between us and our experiences, identifies patterns in our reactions, and solidifies lessons that might otherwise be lost in daily hustle. Neuroscience confirms that writing about our emotional experiences processes them differently in the brain, facilitating their integration. What we simply think about may keep revolving indefinitely. What we write tends to find some resolution. To implement this practice, dedicate 10-15 minutes each night to answering in writing, what generated strong emotional reactions in me today? What can I learn from these reactions? How might I respond better in similar situations? 12. The community of rational beings. Stoics, despite their emphasis on inner strength, deeply recognized the social nature of human beings and the importance of community for emotional development. Marcus Aurelius began his Meditations by thanking the various people who had positively influenced his character. He recognized that our capacity for virtue and emotional balance doesn't develop in isolation, but in relationship with others. The Stoic concept of oikeiosis, the gradual expansion of our concern from ourselves to ever wider circles of humanity, underscores this social dimension. Stoics saw all human beings as part of a natural community of rational beings, united by our shared capacity for reason and virtue. Many of our emotional disturbances arise precisely from forgetting our fundamental connection with others and falling into the illusion of isolation or antagonism. Epictetus taught his students to constantly remind themselves of their role in society. You are a citizen of the world, a part of the whole. This awareness helps us contextualize our personal problems and find purpose even in difficulties. To implement this principle, regularly ask yourself, how can I contribute today to my community's well-being? How can I practice understanding toward those with whom I disagree? Stoics also recommended intentionally surrounding ourselves with people who exemplify the qualities we want to develop. As Seneca observed, we live with examples, and not only reason forms us, but also practice. By recognizing our belonging to the community of rational beings, we transform our relationship with others. Difficult people become opportunities to practice patience. Conflicts become invitations to develop understanding. And our close relationships become a field for cultivating virtues like loyalty and justice. The 12 Stoic principles we've explored offer a coherent and practical system for transforming our relationship with emotions. The goal isn't to eliminate them, an impossible aspiration, but to transform our relationship with them, to experience inner freedom. The ability to fully experience our emotions without being controlled by them. As Marcus Aurelius reminded, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. By consciously working with our thoughts using these Stoic tools, we transform not just our emotions, but the very quality of our life experience. Start today with a simple practice. Whenever you feel an intense emotion arise, stop, breathe deeply, and ask yourself, what's under my control in this situation? This question alone can be the first step toward a way of life characterized by mental clarity, emotional equanimity, and deep resilience to life's inevitable challenges. Stoic wisdom isn't a relic of the past, but a time-tested response to a timeless question. How can we live well in a world we cannot fully control? The answer, as you'll discover by applying these principles, begins and ends in the only place where we truly have power, our own mind. Which of these attitudes do you need to apply today? Share it in the comments, like the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And remember, self-mastery isn't coldness, it's freedom.